My name is Jose, though people call me Pepe. And some, usually those who don't know me well, or with whom I'm not on familiar terms, call me Pepe the Cop. Pepe is a benign, well-meaning, genial diminutive, neither scornful nor flattering. And yet the appellation does imply, if I can put it this way, a certain affection, something more than detached respect. Then there's the other name, the alias, the tail or the hump that I lug around cheerfully, without taking offense, partly because it's never or almost never used in my presence. Pepe the Cop. It's like tossing affection and fear, desire and abuse into the same dark bag. Where does the word cop come from? It comes from copper, he who cops or caps, that is, captures, takes hold of, nabs. In other words, he who has the authority to arrest and hold, who doesn't have to answer to anyone, who has impunity. And they call me Pepe the Cop because that's exactly what I am. It's a job like any other, but few people are prepared to take it on. If I'd known what I know now when I joined the force, I wouldn't have been prepared to take it on either. What made me join the police force? That's a question I've often asked myself, especially lately, and I can't come up with a convincing answer. I was probably dimmer than most in my youth. Maybe I was disappointed in love, though I can't actually recall being in love at the time, or maybe it was fate. Maybe I realized I was different and looked for a solitary job, a job that would allow me to spend hour after hour in the most absolute solitude, but would, at the same time, be of some practical use, so I wouldn't be a burden on anyone. In any case, there was a vacancy for a police officer, and I applied, and the bosses took a look at me, and in less than half a minute the job was mine. One of them, at least, and maybe the others as well, already knew that I was one of Josephine the singer's nephews, although they were careful not to go spreading it around. My brothers and cousins, the other nephews, were normal in every way and happy. I was happy too in my way, but it was obvious that I was related to Josephine, that I belonged to her line. Maybe that influenced the boss's decision to give me the job. Or not. Maybe I was just the first to apply. Maybe they thought no one else would, and if they made me wait, I'd change my mind. I really can't say. All I know for sure is that I joined the force, and from the very first day I spent my time wandering through the sewers, sometimes the main ones where the water flows, sometimes the branch sewers, where we are constantly digging tunnels to gain access to new food sources or provide escape routes or link up with labyrinths that seem at first glance to serve no purpose. And yet all those byways go to make up the network in which our people circulate and survive. Sometimes, partly because it was one of my duties, and partly because I was bored, I'd leave the main sewers and the branch ones too, and go into the dead sewers, conduits frequented only by our explorers and traders, usually on their own, but occasionally accompanied by their spouses and obedient offspring. There was nothing in there, as a rule, just terrifying noises, but sometimes, as I made my way cautiously through that hostile territory, I would come across the body of an explorer or the bodies of a trader and his young children. In the early days, when I was still raw, those discoveries terrified me. I would be so disturbed it was as if I became someone else. What I would do was carry the body out from the dead sewer to the police outpost, which was always deserted, and there I tried to determine the cause of death as well as I could with the means at my disposal. Then I would go to fetch the coroner, and, if he was in the mood, he'd get dressed or change his clothes, grab his bag, and accompany me to the outpost. Once we were there, I'd leave him alone with the corpse or the corpses and go out again. When our police officers discover a body, instead of returning to the scene of the crime, they generally make a vain effort to mix with civilians, working alongside them and participating in their conversations. But I'm different. I don't mind going back to inspect the crime scene and look for details that might have escaped my notice, and retrace the poor victim's steps, or sniff my way, cautiously of course, back up the tunnel from which the attack had been launched.